Usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, um, there's this expectation of precision.
Right, like it should be absolute.
Exactly, like engineering or something. You break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points and says, there it is.
Yeah, it's a binary state. I mean, it is clear, it is visible, and it's just absolute. You are broken or you are whole.
And honestly, it's comforting. We like things to be visible. We like them to be categorized, to fit neatly into a box so we know exactly how to deal with them.
Oh, absolutely. The human brain craves that categorization.
Right. But then you step into the world of chronic illness. You step into conditions that fluctuate day by day or even hour by hour.
Which is terrifying for a lot of people.
It is. And suddenly that x-ray machine is completely useless. We're looking at a diagnostic landscape that is just the absolute definition of muddy waters.
Muddy, invisible, and incredibly frustrating.
Exactly. So what happens when you take that murky, invisible struggle and you thrust it into an industry that is entirely obsessed with the visible?
Oh, you mean the beauty industry?
Yeah. An industry literally built on aesthetics, perfection, and, surface level flawlessness.
Well, you get a collision of two completely opposing worldviews. And that collision is exactly what we're examining today in this deep dive.
Yes, it is. Because what we have in front of us is a set of show notes, which, it's just a descriptive artifact, really.
Right, just text.
Yeah, just text from an August 2023 deep dive on a niche media platform called the Hairstylist Empowerment Podcast.
Hosted by a celebrity hairstylist known as B-Rad.
All right, B-Rad. And it features a guest named Juliana Yates. And while a summary might seem like a strange place to look for profound sociological insights,
It really isn't.
no, it's not. This deep dive isn't just about reading an interview recap for you guys. It's about unpacking the intersection of chronic illness, provocative branding, beauty psychology, and, frankly, the fascinating business ecosystem of niche industry podcasting.
Because what looks like a simple digital summary of a conversation is actually a highly sophisticated blueprint.
A blueprint for what, exactly?
For survival. I mean, it is a masterclass in how an individual can take profound, unpredictable personal adversity and just weaponize it into a community-focused, highly lucrative business model.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with Juliana herself and the brand she has built. Because, it is designed to immediately stop you in your tracks.
It really is.
Juliana Yates is a celebrity makeup artist and the founder of an artistry brand she started back in 2016. But the core undeniable fact driving this brand and driving Juliana herself is that she lives with 3 chronic illnesses.
3 of them.
Yeah, 3. So every single day she is navigating a body that is actively challenging her baseline existence.
Just getting out of bed is a monumental effort.
Right. Yet her stated dedication is to get up every day and make her clients look and feel amazing.
And the most interesting part is she didn't choose to hide that reality behind some generic corporate facade. She named her company Crippled but Cute Artistry.
I want to just sit with that name for a second. Crippled but cute. Because in an era of very polished, very safe, focus-grouped corporate branding,
Oh, it's a shock to the system.
it's a massive shock. Who does that?
Well, someone who understands provocative branding. Let's look at the mechanics of why that name works so effectively from a psychological and marketing standpoint.
Okay, lay it on me.
What she has done is forcefully pair 2 words that belong to entirely different sociolinguistic categories.
Right.
Crippled is a word that has historically been weaponized. It's associated with limitation, stigma, pity, and societal marginalization.
It's heavy.
Exactly. It is a heavy, sharp word.
And then she slams it right up against cute, which, implies aesthetic appeal, usefulness,
Right.
lightness. It's approachable.
It's almost a frivolous word compared to the gravity of the first one.
Yeah, it really is.
And that deliberate juxtaposition creates cognitive dissonance. It demands your attention because your brain has to work to reconcile those 2 concepts.
Especially in a predominantly image-focused industry where brands are usually named things like ethereal glow or flawless beauty.
Right, names designed to soothe you into a state of aspirational perfection.
Exactly. So naming your brand, Crippled but Cute, reclaims the narrative entirely.
It strips the power away from the stigma of disability and centers it as the foundational truth of her artistry.
She isn't asking you to politely ignore her illness. She's requiring you to acknowledge it before you even sit in her chair.
Which is incredibly bold.
It is. But I have to wonder about the daily utility of that. Because On one hand, if you put Crippled right there in the title, no one can ever accuse you of hiding it. You own the narrative.
You take away their ammunition.
Exactly. But on the other hand, you are essentially erecting a massive billboard announcing your daily physical trauma to every single stranger who books a consultation.
Which is exhausting in its own way.
Right. It reminds me of the architectural concept of brutalism.
Brutalism. How so?
Well, think about a standard office building. The architects spend millions of dollars hiding the concrete pillars, the steel beams, the HVAC ducts.
Oh, sure.
They cover it all up with smooth drywall and nice paint so you don't have to think about the heavy, ugly machinery keeping the building standing.
You just see the polished final product.
Exactly. But brutalist architecture does the exact opposite. It exposes the raw concrete. It puts the massive load-bearing structures on the outside of the building.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. It doesn't hide the weight. It forces you to look at exactly what is holding the structure up.
That's a great analogy.
Juliana isn't hiding the structural weight of her illness behind metaphorical drywall. She's exposing the load-bearing elements of her life. She is making the struggle the focal point of her foundation.
That is a much more accurate way to look at it than just calling it, vulnerability. It is structural honesty.
Structural honesty. I like that phrase.
And by being structurally honest, Juliana filters her clientele immediately. The people who choose to book with her aren't just looking for a superficial transactional makeover.
No, they're buying into her ethos.
Exactly. They are actively opting into an ethos of resilience. It signals to the client, hey, I know exactly what it means to struggle simply to exist, and I am still bringing my absolute highest level of skill to you.
Which establishes an immediate foundation of profound trust.
Undeniably.
Which is something for you, listening right now, to really visualize in your own life. How do you frame your personal obstacles in your professional environment?
Do you hide them?
Yeah, do you spend all your energy putting up drywall, hoping nobody notices the structural accommodations you need? Or do you expose the concrete?
It is terrifying to be that structurally honest.
It's petrifying.
Yeah.
But as Giuliano shows, it can become your ultimate market differentiator. But wait, if her brand name is this raw acknowledgement of physical limitation, how does that actually translate into the physical application of makeup?
The actual day-to-day work.
Yeah, what is the mechanism connecting chronic illness to applying eyeliner?
Well, that translation from macro branding to the micro interpersonal interaction is where her philosophy takes a really fascinating turn.
Tell me more.
The source material highlights her core belief regarding her profession. To Juliana, makeup is, in her own words, quote, more than just colors.
Which sounds nice, but what does that actually mean in practice?
It means she is entirely rejecting the historical premise of the cosmetics industry.
Oh, wow. Entirely.
Yes. For decades, the underlying corporate psychology of makeup has been about masking. It has been about covering up your flaws, hiding your blemishes, and altering your features so you can conform to an externally dictated standard of perfection.
Oh, right. It's an industry built on generating insecurity and then selling you the cure.
Exactly.
The old, buy this concealer or people will see how tired you really look marketing angle.
Which we've all fallen for. But Juliana flips that entirely. She views makeup not as a mask to hide behind, but as a mechanism for people to step out of their everyday comfort zones.
Step out of their comfort zones. How?
The critical distinction here is the end goal. When her clients step out of that comfort zone, the goal isn't to artificially transform them into someone else.
Okay.
The goal is for them to discover a realm of what she calls phenomenal excellence within themselves.
Phenomenal excellence. I mean, that is a soaring, almost intimidatingly ambitious phrase to use for a beauty service.
It is.
It elevates the role from a simple aesthetic technician to something closer to a psychological guide.
And what's fascinating here is the direct mechanical parallel between Juliana's internal physiological reality and her external work with clients.
Let's break that down.
Okay, let's look at her daily reality. Living with 3 chronic illnesses means that simply managing her baseline health requires her to constantly push through immense physical and emotional discomfort.
She's essentially always uncomfortable.
Exactly. She is perpetually operating outside the standard comfort zone of a healthy, functioning body. Her entire existence is an exercise in pushing through severe limitations to achieve excellence despite the biological odds.
So she is taking the exact psychological framework she uses to survive her own body and mapping it onto her client's aesthetic insecurities.
Precisely.
That is wild.
When a client sits in her chair and feels deeply insecure about their appearance, or is terrified to try a bold new look because they feel they aren't pretty enough to pull it off.
Juliana isn't just applying pigment to their skin.
No. She is coaching them through a micro version of the barrier breaking she has to do every single morning just to get out of bed.
Wow.
She is lending them her hard-won resilience.
He's essentially saying, look, I push past my physical boundaries every single day. I can help you push past your self-doubt right now.
It completely re-engineers the dynamic of the makeover.
It really does. It's not about fixing a broken face. It's about unearthing an excellence that the client was simply too afraid to display.
Exactly.
And I imagine that level of deep, empathetic service doesn't just result in a good Yelp review. It creates fiercely loyal advocates.
Oh, absolutely.
Which explains how she didn't just stay a freelance makeup artist. She scaled this philosophy into a brick-and-mortar reality.
And the way she scaled it is highly deliberate. The show notes reveal that she realized a lifelong dream by marrying her original brand, Crippled but Cute Artistry, with a new entity.
Right, the Impaired Artistry Institute.
Exact.
Now, I'm going to be honest. Calling a makeup business an institute sounds incredibly sterile to me.
You think so?
Yeah, it sounds like a hospital or research facility. Isn't that the exact opposite of the warm, inviting, luxurious vibe a beauty salon is supposed to have?
Well, it sounds sterile if you only associate the word with clinical medicine. But in business, words dictate structural authority.
Structural authority. Unpack that.
She started as a solo makeup artist in 2016. Fast forward to this 2023 deep dive, and she has built an institute. Let's look at the mechanics of that word choice.
Okay.
You don't call it a parlor, which implies a quaint, old-fashioned room. You don't call it a studio, which implies a small, solitary artist's space.
Right.
You call it an institute. That implies rigorous education. It implies established authority, standardized methodology, and a permanent infrastructure.
So it's about signaling a shift from a personality-driven hustle to a formalized business establishment.
Exactly. The source material explicitly notes that the Institute offers a variety of services, uses proven techniques, top-of-the-line products, and guarantees quality and professionalism. By marrying the two concepts, she executes a brilliant strategic maneuver. She retains the edgy, highly personal, structurally honest origin story, crippled but cute, but anchors it to a highly professional, structured, authoritative business model.
The Impaired Artistry Institute.
Yes, it provides the perfect equilibrium between raw emotional resonance and operational reliability.
Okay, but here's where I really want to push back on her strategy.
So for it.
The notes specifically highlight that the Institute is growing to be a gem of Montgomery County.
Right.
Now, we live in an era of borderless, hyper-digital commerce. You can build a global beauty brand from your iPhone on TikTok overnight.
True.
So why would someone with a story that has such obvious universal global appeal focus so heavily on establishing a hyper-local geographic footprint? I mean, why does Montgomery County matter when the internet exists?
Because the internet cannot replicate the fundamental biological mechanism of the service industry.
Which is?
Physical touch. Yes, digital reach is crucial for selling standardized products, like shipping 1 million bottles of foundation. But the service side of the beauty industry operates entirely on localized interpersonal trust.
You literally cannot digitally apply makeup.
You cannot digitally cut hair. Ultimately, a human being has to physically walk through a door, sit in a chair, and allow another human being into their immediate personal space.
They have to close their eyes and let a stranger touch their face with sharp tools and chemicals.
Yes.
The level of physical vulnerability there is actually staggering when you really think about it.
It is immense. And you don't build that kind of deep physical trust through a viral video. You build it through consistent physical community presence.
So being the gem of Montgomery County isn't a failure to scale globally.
Not at all. It's the necessary foundation of service industry scaling. Quality guarantees and professionalism are what keep a local retail space alive.
That makes total sense.
By becoming an institution in a specific county, she weaves her business into the actual physical life events of that community.
All right, she is there for their weddings, their graduations, their moments of profound transition.
She has built a physical sanctuary for her philosophy of phenomenal excellence.
So the local brick and mortar is the laboratory where the philosophy is actually practiced. But she clearly understands she can't stop there.
No, she has to broadcast it.
Exactly.
No.
Because she isn't just speaking to her local county. We know her story because she is a guest on a platform specifically designed to project these niche voices globally.
Yes.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the platform itself. The Hairstylist Empowerment Podcast, hosted by BRAD.
This is where we shift from looking at an individual business owner to examining the hidden economics and community structures of B2B, business-to-business niche media.
Right. According to the notes, BRAD is a celebrity hairstylist. His podcast has over 58.4K downloads. It's available on over 40 platforms, including Spotify and Audible.
And its stated mission.
To, quote, allow the voices of the beauty industry to empower with the spoken word.
Now let's contextualize that number. 58,400 downloads.
I look at that number, and if we were analyzing a mainstream comedy podcast or a massive true crime show, 58,000 downloads might barely pay for the microphone.
Exactly. But we aren't talking about mass market entertainment here.
No, and that context changes the math entirely.
It does. In the world of highly targeted B2B niche professional podcasting, 58,000 downloads is a phenomenally powerful metric.
Because it's so concentrated.
Yes. It represents a fiercely loyal, highly concentrated demographic. It is essentially a sold-out stadium filled entirely with dedicated industry professionals who are actively seeking out education, specialized knowledge, and connection within their specific trade.
But wait, look at their mission statement.
Yeah.
To empower with the spoken word. That phrasing seems completely contradictory to the reality of their profession.
Why do you say that?
Well, the beauty industry is arguably the most fiercely visual industry on the planet.
Sure.
It is driven entirely by visual aesthetics, Instagram grids, before and after photos, video tutorials, high-definition visual portfolios.
That's true.
Trying to create an audio-first platform for a purely visual industry seems like trying to write a cookbook using only Braille. Why strip away the visuals?
Because the visuals are actually the source of the industry's collective fatigue.
Oh, interesting.
When you strip away the distraction of the final aesthetic product, the flawlessly blended makeup or the perfectly executed haircut, you are forced to focus entirely on the cognitive and emotional mechanics of the person performing the work.
You are left with the human being behind the chair.
Exactly.
So it's a deliberate sensory deprivation to force a deeper connection.
That's a great way to phrase it. BRAD recognized a critical gap in the market. Hairstylists and makeup artists are bombarded with visual data for 10 hours a day.
They're constantly staring at faces, hair, screens.
Right. They don't need another picture of a haircut. What they actually need to sustain their careers, to avoid quitting the industry entirely, is mental and emotional empowerment.
They need business strategies, they need philosophical grounding.
And they need to hear stories of profound resilience like Juliana's.
And from a purely practical standpoint, an audio format allows them to consume this lifeline while their hands are physically occupied.
Exactly.
They can have an earbud in while they're sweeping the floor, mixing bleach in the back room, or just commuting.
BRAD isn't just interviewing people. He is operating as a curator of industry survival tactics.
He ensures that Juliana's framework for finding phenomenal excellence is injected directly into the ears of 58,000 other professionals who might be on the verge of a breakdown that very day.
And by curating that specific type of deeply empathetic, survival-oriented content, BRAD positions himself as a vital node in this professional network.
He becomes indispensable.
He builds an immense reserve of trust with his audience, but the true genius of his business model is how he monetizes and mobilizes that trust.
How so?
He doesn't just leave his community in the digital ether. He uses the deep dive content to manifest this community in the physical world through highly ambitious, real-world logistical events.
You're talking about the cruises.
Yes.
This genuinely blew my mind when I realized the scale of what he's organizing. He is heavily promoting a venture called beautyindustrycruises.com.
Operating under the tagline, powerful education in beautiful destinations.
The show notes explicitly advertise a hairstylist Halloween hangout leaving from Miami in October 2023 and a massive vacation of a lifetime leaving from Athens, Greece in June 2024.
What we're looking at here is the mechanics of the eDo Vacation business model.
eDo Vacation.
Right. It is a highly sophisticated synthesis of three fundamental professional needs: industry networking, continuing education, and physiological leisure.
It's the ultimate industry write-off.
It is.
But seriously, let's compare this to the standard model of professional development. Most industries host their annual conferences in these massive, sterile, windowless hotel conference centers in the middle of a random city.
Right, with the terrible fluorescent lighting.
The air is recycled, the lighting gives you a headache, the coffee is terrible, and after 3 days of forced networking, you are more exhausted than when you arrived.
Oh, universally.
So how is this cruise model mechanically different, other than just being on a boat?
It's fundamentally different on a neurobiological level.
Neurobiological.
Yes. We've already discussed the concept of stepping out of your comfort zone with Juliana. Standard conferences fail because they do not remove you from a state of stress. They just change the flavor of the stress.
Yeah.
The Edu vacation model physically and psychologically removes beauty professionals from their repetitive, high-stress environments. It takes them out of the windowless salon and places them on the agency.
And that changes how they learn.
Yes. Novel, beautiful environments actually stimulate different neurological pathways, making the brain far more receptive to the powerful education being offered.
Plus, we have to look at the physical toll of this specific industry. If you are a stylist or a makeup artist, your body is your factory equipment.
Literally.
You are standing on your feet for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
Your lower back is compressed. Your hands are developing carpal tunnel. Your shoulders are knotted.
You are constantly outputting physical and emotional energy.
Burnout isn't just a psychological risk. It's a physiological inevitability.
Exactly. And the Edu vacation model directly addresses that physiological inevitability. It acknowledges that these professionals desperately need a vacation to let their bodies physically recover.
But they also feel the financial pressure to continuously invest in their education to stay relevant.
Right. By combining the two, BRAD removes the guilt of taking time off. He allows them to advance their careers while enforcing a mandatory period of physical rest and environmental inspiration.
And the networking aspect completely changes. You aren't awkwardly handing out business cards over a stale pastry in a crowded hallway.
No.
You are sharing meals, taking excursions, and building genuine, relaxed relationships with hundreds of other professionals who intimately understand the exact specificities of your daily struggles.
It creates an airtight, self-sustaining ecosystem. You listen to the audio to survive the mental grind of your daily shifts. Then, you use your hard-earned money to book the cruise to physically recover and elevate your skills alongside the very community you've been listening to.
It's brilliant. But to really, truly understand the depth of this ecosystem, to understand the intense emotional reality of the audience BRAD is serving, we cannot just look at Juliana's feature.
No, we have to look broader.
We have to look at the surrounding context. The show notes generously provide a list of more episodes like this, showing what else this audience is consuming.
And
I have to say, looking at this list, it is a jarring experience.
the tonal whiplash contained in that short list of recommended discussions is genuinely staggering.
It really is.
It perfectly illustrates the dichotomy of the industry. On one hand, you have deep dives dedicated to topics like pageants and chisme.
Which, for those who might not know, chisme is the Spanish word for gossip.
Right.
It implies a very culturally specific, animated, lighthearted sharing of drama. Spilling the tea.
It's inherently frivolous and entertaining. But sitting directly next to chisme and topics about situationships, you have content dealing with incredibly dense, emotionally devastating human experiences.
Yes, there is a discussion centered on a rainbow baby,
Which is
the term for a child born after the parents have suffered a miscarriage, a stillbirth, or neonatal death. It is a topic that carries an unimaginable weight of both profound grief and fragile hope.
It's incredibly heavy.
And then there's another one titled, When to Give a Friend Space, diving into complex, likely painful interpersonal boundary setting.
And then the most jarring one.
Yes, most jarring of all, there is one labeled A Bitch Sesh, where a guest named Jen Higgins discusses turning tragedy into purpose after domestic violence took her best friend, subtitled The Hardest Chapter.
So within a single audio feed, under the banner of hairstylist empowerment, you have lighthearted gossip, the intense pressure of pageants, the grief of infant loss, the nuances of friendship boundaries, and the horrific trauma of losing a best friend to domestic violence.
I have to admit, my initial reaction to seeing domestic violence listed next to ageism on a B2B beauty platform was absolute confusion.
Really?
Yeah. Why mix the frivolous with the profoundly tragic? It seems chaotic. It almost seems disrespectful to mix those extremes in a professional development feed.
Well, it only looks chaotic if you have never worked in the service industry.
What do you mean?
If you look closely at the sociology of the beauty industry, that list is not a random assortment of chaotic topics. It is a perfect, unfiltered mirror of the salon chair.
The salon chair. Explain the mechanics of that.
Okay, we have to look at the salon as what sociologists call a third place.
Meaning a social environment separate from the two usual social environments of home and the workplace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the salon chair is a unique subcategory because it involves sustained, intimate physical touch.
Right.
When a stylist is washing your hair or a makeup artist is applying foundation to your jawline, they are physically crossing your boundaries.
Which we usually don't allow strangers to do.
Yeah. Right. And that physical proximity bypasses our normal social defenses, which almost instantly breaks down our emotional barriers. The salon chair effectively functions as a modern, secular confessional.
Because you are literally trapped in the chair looking at yourself in the mirror while someone else alters your identity. The vulnerability is forced upon you.
Exactly. And because of that forced vulnerability, beauty professionals are subjected to an unrelenting fire hose of human experience. They hear absolutely everything.
Everything.
Think about the required emotional agility of a stylist's typical Tuesday morning. At 9:00 a.m., a client sits down and spends 45 minutes laughing and dishing hilarious chisme about a disastrous Tinder date.
And the stylist has to match that energy. They have to laugh, engage, and be the fun confidant.
Right. But then at 10 a.m., the next client sits down, looks in the mirror, and completely breaks down in tears, confessing that they just suffered a miscarriage.
Oh, wow. And within 60 seconds, the stylist has to pivot from laughing about Tinder to holding space for profound, devastating grief.
And it doesn't stop. At 11:30 a.m., someone comes in buzzing with anxiety about a pageant. At 1:00 p.m., a regular client comes in and quietly reveals they're trying to figure out how to escape a domestic violence situation.
When you lay out the timeline like that, it's horrifying. The human brain isn't designed to process that level of extreme emotional context switching hour after hour, day after day.
It's exhausting.
So the platform's feed isn't chaotic at all. It is a literal survival guide. It accurately reflects the holistic, punishing reality of working behind the chair.
They aren't just cutting split ends.
No, they are acting as unlicensed therapists, absorbing the entire spectrum of the human condition in 1-hour increments.
This is the concept of emotional labor in its purest form. To do this job at the level Juliana does, to be an institute and a true gem of your community, you must possess the capacity to hold space for both the frivolous gossip and the unimaginable tragedy.
You have to navigate the fragile joy of a rainbow baby while safely managing the trauma of a client experiencing violence.
And this audio ecosystem provides the only space where all of those exhausting realities are validated. It looks at the listener and says, we see the psychological weight you are carrying home every night. You are not crazy, and you are not alone.
Which is such a profound realization. And for you, listening to this deep dive right now, I want you to actively think about the people who provide services in your life.
Absolutely.
Think about the person who cuts your hair, the makeup artist you hire for an event, your bartender, your barista. Think about the sheer volume of emotional labor they are absorbing from hundreds of people, including you, on a daily basis.
It's staggering.
We have been conditioned to view these interactions as purely transactional, money for a service. But underneath that transaction, there is a deeply, intensely human exchange of emotional weight.
Which brings us full circle right back to Juliana Yates's foundational philosophy.
How so?
When she states that her goal is to help people discover their phenomenal excellence, she's not talking about applying a flawless layer of foundation.
Right.
She intimately understands the heavy, complex emotional baggage her clients are carrying when they sit down in her chair.
Right.
Her artistry, her true service, is providing them with a temporary physical sanctuary. It is giving them a moment of grace, a designated time to feel powerful, excellent, and cared for, regardless of whatever tragedy, illness, or drama they are forced to navigate once they walk back out her doors.
And the most staggering part of all of this is that she is facilitating that emotional and physical sanctuary for others while actively battling 3 chronic illnesses of her own. She is carrying her own immense load while lifting the burden off her clients.
It really is remarkable.
So we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We started with Juliana Yates taking the pain, the unpredictability, and the limitation of chronic illness and structurally exposing it, forging it into the incredibly bold, provocative brand, Crippled but Cute Artistry.
A true lesson in structural honesty.
We saw how she engineered her daily physical struggles into a psychological framework, helping clients push past their own comfort zones to unearth their phenomenal excellence.
From there, we examine the mechanics of scaling that deeply personal mission into a formalized, highly structured institution.
The Impaired Artistry Institute.
Exactly. And why hyperlocal physical geography is the absolute bedrock of trust in the service industry.
And finally, we zoomed out to analyze the digital architecture amplifying her voice. The Hairstylist Empowerment Podcast.
And the brilliant, self-sustaining ecosystem BRAD has built.
An ecosystem that strips away the visual noise of a visual industry to focus purely on cognitive survival. An ecosystem that uses the neurobiology of luxury vacations on the agency to combat the physiological inevitability of industry burnout.
Incredible.
And a platform that ultimately curates a content feed that perfectly, beautifully mirrors the chaotic, tragic, and joyful emotional landscape of the salon chair confessional. So what does this all mean?
Well, it means that true artistry, and perhaps the highest form of entrepreneurship in any field, has very little to do with the tactical application of skills.
Right. It's not about the mechanics.
No, it is not about the makeup brushes, the scissors, or the techniques. It is entirely about cultivating a deep, empathetic connection to the human condition.
Empathy is the product.
Yes, it is about recognizing that the flaws, the chronic illnesses, the devastating tragedies, and the lighthearted gossip are not distractions from the work. They are the fundamental fabric of the people we serve.
Wow.
And when you design a business model that honestly incorporates that messy reality rather than trying to paste drywall over it with a flawless facade, you create an unshakable foundation.
You create an institute.
Yeah.
You create a movement. And that leaves me with a final provocative thought for you, our listener, to really chew on as you step back into your own life this week.
Yes.
We spent this time analyzing how Juliana took the very thing that society might view as a massive deficit, the reality of being crippled by chronic illness, and made it the literal load-bearing pillar of her excellence.
Her defining strength.
So I want you to identify your own biggest personal hurdle right now. Think about the daily struggle you expend massive amounts of energy trying to hide from your colleagues.
The drywall you keep patching.
Right. The thing you consider your structural weakness. If you were to take that exact weakness and make it the literal name of your brand or the stated public philosophy of your life,
Yeah.
how would it change the way you interact with the world?
It would shift everything.
If you stopped putting up drywall and instead painted it in bright colors and put it right there on the marquee, would it stop being a liability? Would the very thing you are trying to hide surprisingly become your greatest asset?
It's a terrifying proposition to expose yourself like that, but as we've seen laid out in this blueprint today, structural honesty is where the real power lies.
Exactly.
You do not achieve phenomenal excellence by pretending the X-ray is clean when you know it isn't. You achieve it by acknowledging exactly what is broken or chronic or murky and choosing to build something beautiful right on top of it.
You stop fighting the murky waters, and you learn to navigate them. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It has been an absolute privilege unpacking this complex ecosystem with you. Keep questioning the structures around you, keep discovering your own phenomenal excellence, and we will talk to you soon.